So once you get them talking, actually what I have found predominantly, I think the history is males don't like to talk about anything. If you give them a safe environment where they can trust, and that's key, they have to trust. They know that whatever they tell me is not going to anybody else unless they give me permission to do that.
Well, if you get the comfort level and you hit the right trigger words, I mean, one of my first guests in here was somebody who never talked. And once I got him comfortable and got him talking, it's like it was all pin up and he just opened up. And I think once you get men talking and they're comfortable with you, they'll talk more than you expect.
And that's the same with any of the first responders, because they do learn to hide their emotions. They do worry about what people think. They do worry about their peers knowing that they are capable of doing their jobs. And you're right. Once you open them up, the floodgates open, and now you're not just talking about what they recently experienced. You're talking about many of their experiences over the years that they never had the opportunity to talk to anybody about.
What do you think makes you good at the job?
I think I'm a pretty good listener. I think that I also have an understanding of what many of them do. My experience is more with law enforcement, but now I'm starting to get more involved in the EMS because more people are calling me. You know, the word of mouth, you got to call her if you're having a problem, and she'll either hook you up with somebody in the traditional mental health system or with another peer. And I think that the success rate is another reason why it is successful, because people have seen people get through things and be able to go back to work, and they're better people for it.
How are you guys funded over there? Are you all right?
Well, through the critical incident stress management team, as I said, we're all volunteers.
So there's no charge for this.
They do not charge the department. So there's a couple of things that we're doing here. For critical incident stress management, the team would be called out if there's a critical incident or a traumatic event in the community. And the call would then come from the department's supervisor. And then the idea is that we get everybody involved that was involved in the critical incident to sit around, and we're all going to kind of try to identify what was the worst part for people. Are they getting through this? Are they struggling? We also will give them information of, you're going to experience this, this, and this, which is all normal for the event that you just experienced. And then we're also going to give them a way to reach out to us should in a couple of days things might not be getting better. The peer support, that is different. The calls I get for peer support are now I'm getting more direct calls from people because many of them I know from teaching the classes. But I also get some calls from their administration saying, hey, can you reach out and check on this person? Or fellow peers will call and say, hey, I'm worried about this person. They just had a bad call. Can you just check on them?
Is there anything done where there's like, routine checks, whereas you have, like physical fitness? I always thought there should be a mental fitness.
There should. There really should. And to the best of my knowledge, I do not believe most of the departments do things like that. If they did, I do know of some departments that have told me they've done in the past, but I think what happens is when you're being sent to talk to someone, the perception is that person's trying to figure out if you're too messed up to do this job. So what do those people know? They go in, they're going to tell them everything they want to hear, tell them they're fine. In order to have routine checks, I think that, and the idea of the peer support is to get people out there that you're familiar with. So you allow them to check on you. You even might reach out to them when you're having a hard time, but when somebody knows they're being evaluated, they're going to know what they should say or not should say, because they're not going to lose their job over this.
Well, I think that even though at the time I didn't like it, and if it happened today, I wouldn't like it in all honesty. I think the idea that the mental health person was forced on me and my partner, I think that was a good idea because it made us deal with it, because it was like folding laundry. We were just putting it off. We were breaking records for putting it off,
And that's good. I think that when somebody kind of makes you do it, I get a mixed reaction.
Right.
Some will kind of clam up and say, we don't need this. This is a waste of our time. But if you have departments that are making this mandatory every single time that there is a perception of a critical incident or a traumatic event that could affect some of their emergency responders, they're used to it happening. So they're more likely to develop that relationship of people coming out. I have one chief who actually makes me come out for a lot of different things. And the officers joke when they see me. They call me the Grim Reaper, but they say it with love, because they know I'm coming. And now that has become an expectation. Whereas I think that if the chief stopped having me come out, there might be some feelings like, oh, they don't care. Why aren't they sending Michelle out to check on us, or sending somebody out to check on us? And that's huge with emergency responders. They need somebody to reach out to take care of them.
It just seems like with all the things that we do, where you have departments that have, they'll put in weight rooms and they'll come up with exercise plans and they'll reward you for not smoking and everything. It seems like we've totally avoided mental health,
We do.
As far as any kind of mandate or incentive-based thing,
They do. And that is one of the, I think, an improvement that we're going to hopefully start seeing an increase in, is because they really are looking at statistics. And if I can focus on law enforcement for a moment, back in the 50s, they had more line of duty deaths than they did have suicides. Okay. And by far more line of duty deaths than they have today. So what did they do? They upped their training. They gave them more equipment to protect themselves. And now, even though we're having a lot of line of duty deaths now, still doesn't even compare to the 50s. Now we are seeing anywhere, the statistics are different. I see anywhere from 3 to 4 suicides to every line of duty death is statistically what they're saying for law enforcement. That's a problem.
I think I don't think we cope the same. I don't know if we're better or we're worse at it, but it's just something's off. What would you say to get somebody involved with what you do? What would be your elevator recruitment speech?
I think that it takes a special kind of person to do this. You have to have good listening skills. You have to have the ability to first listen to the problem before you can fix it. Whereas many first responders are so used to jumping in and fixing problems, they forget they have to listen to see what is actually happening with that individual. I think many of our peers have experienced some things themselves and realized that the way they coped maybe was not necessarily the best way, or maybe they suffered longer than they should have. So they're kind of driven to play that forward and make sure other people are being looked out for. So I think it's a combination of things.
If you had an opportunity to tell the public something about what you do to have them better understanding, what would you tell them?
In regards to emergency service, honestly, what I would tell I don't want this message to be sent out that we have a lot of people out there who are kind of messed up, but maybe to have the understanding of what did those first responders just deal with before they came to your crisis? Why did it maybe take them a little longer to get there? Did they just have a car accident where maybe a child was involved? Maybe their stressors are high because of all the incidents that they had dealt with that day. But for the most part, they're human, just like anybody else. And I think when we treat people with kindness, that's what you're going to get back.
Well, I know myself that people often ask me about what I see and what I do, because we tend to see people when they're at a state that people don't see them at typically. And people think that when people are deceased, they think they look like they do at a funeral home, and they don't. And we see them in various ways where nature takes us back. And it's just very extreme. And, we have to deal with the things that other people turn away from when they see. And it does take its toll on you, and it does have a lot of stress. I think it's good to know that there's groups out there that's willing to help with that part of it. But, to complete that cycle, we in emergency services have to be willing to partake of that. And I know that I'll use myself as the poster child for being stubborn and resistant. We have to be willing to go. You can't help somebody if they don't want to help themselves, and they have to be willing to want to be helped. If you could have a magic wand or a blank check to make things better or get the word out or help more people, what would you do?
I would say in general, we all have to look out for everyone, whether it's, your civilian You're looking out for your neighbors. First responders have to look out for each other. Regular people have to look out for first responders. And maybe instead of judging what everybody else is doing, we need to just start kind of being nice to everybody, realizing that, with first responders, when they come out, you made a great point. They're attending your worst day. And if they don't seem like they have any emotion, it might be because they have to detach themselves in order to be professional and help you through that problem. Magic wand, I wish people, the stigma won't be there, that our emergency responders, that it would be okay for them to say, I'm not doing well today, and not have to worry about their jobs and not have to worry about how people judge them and think about them, and that they can be just like anybody else.
What do you think after 18 years of doing this, and if you do it for another 18, what do you think your legacy will be?
I don't know that I'm looking for a legacy. I think I'm just hoping, if I can leave one, that our first responders have that support group to go to, have ways of reaching out, or have the ability to realize they have to take personal responsibility sometimes for their own mental health issues, whether that be going through their own private insurance or reaching out themselves. That is my hope.
Okay. I don't think you look for a legacy. I think it just happens and it finds you, because I think I've seen people try and make a legacy, and by the time you realize you want to make one, it's always too late. It's either there, it's either been built in the process or not. That's just about it. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
No, I'm just thrilled that you invited me in here, because to me, this is an extremely important topic that is kind of always swept under the carpet, that we always want to believe that everybody's okay out there and not struggling, but it's okay. It's okay to ask for help.
I'm glad you came, and we should do more on this topic. And I'd like to thank everybody for listening. That's another episode of Unsung. It's good to have everybody here. Stay safe, stay smart, stay sane. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks again. Take care. I can be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The picture, the thinker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in. I am everyday people.
A quote by Sidney Sheldon: "My heroes are those who risk their lives every day to protect our world and to make it a better place. Police, firefighters, and members of our armed forces."
Rich is just a really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich? No. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzzed driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely, like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says, "I'm a catch," more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.